My wife was there doing my presentation. Public health.
Okay, great. We'll say hello for you.
Got a chance to have some fun in Austin last night. Maybe before you leave today. Just a reminder of a couple things. Please turn your microphones back on, front and bottom, so that you're reading. And remember that anything you can say will be held against you on YouTube. So,
battery is gone.
Sorry?
I think ours is gone. They won't turn
See,
on.
that's the thing. These things make me nuts. Keep at it. Sometimes if you press too hard, it doesn't work. Sometimes if you press too wide, it doesn't.
Well, it was flashing when I first got here. It stopped flashing. No, I never touched it. We'll do.
I'm worried that you guys don't have one. That's good. It's like you just got.
This is the one that was in between.
Yeah, you might want to check and kind of make sure your mics are kind of spread semi-evenly out. So good spread of things. Also, before we leave today, I need to get your expense reports. We're not going to hold you down to the exact nickel of how much your trip costs, but the board needs to know, and the legislative budget board at the legislature needs to get a rough idea of how much the state spends on these committees. So,
well, what if our school didn't reimburse us? Do you still need this?
That's for your institution. Your institution should reimburse you.
Well, they didn't.
Well,
No, they didn't.
no, I saw what you wrote, but they clearly ignored it. And I'm not taking it out of my department money.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate, everybody appreciates this. If you can leave it with me before you leave, or if you would like to keep it with you to record your expenses on your trip home,
They didn't pay for money.
that's fine, and I expect that's what most of you will do. If that's the case, then please don't forget to PDF me a copy of that sheet, or just email it to me as an attachment, and I'll keep a record. I don't need a copy of your receipts. Your institution may need that, but I don't need that. I just need the summary of the grand total of what you spent in your time and expenses. I know it's hard to estimate time, but if you can give a ballpark, you might want to estimate at the end, when we get our public comments soon after the 30-day public comment period, and you get a chance to review those and then offer feedback to us, you might want to add another 4 or 5 hours to your time of what it will take you to look at the public responses, generate some replies, and spend some time interacting with the committee about what you think of the public comments. So, any questions on the process or anything like that? Okay. Let me make a quick note about the survey that I passed around. I really appreciate a number of you, almost all of you, I think all of you, responded last night to the votes about what you would like to see in the field of study. Some of the responses were a little ambiguous, so please take these numbers with a grain of salt. The reason why is because some people said very clearly, here are the courses I want in the science category, here are the ones I want in the education category. Some of you just said, here are the courses I want, and listed them. If you didn't specify if you meant science or education, I assume you meant just education, because that's what Randy asked you to do last night. So the numbers for education look a lot higher than they do for the science category. Okay, so there could be a little bit of ambiguity in some of these. Okay. Also, some of you assumed, I believe, that AP1 and AP2 and Intro to Kinesiology were already off the table for the purposes of this question because we already agreed to those yesterday. So you'll see that the numbers for AP1 and 2 on the handout are suspiciously low. I think that's because a number of you assumed that we weren't even talking about those courses. Okay. So with those little provisos, I'll turn it over to our co-chairs here to get us back on track. And we can call the meeting to order, obviously.
Well,
Yeah, I know.
yeah. Just, I guess, an opening comment. I started to say this was an impossible task. It's not an impossible task. We can get something done. It's impossible for it to come out in a completely good way across the board for everybody. I was astonished at the number of systems that they said the state of Texas has, and we have 4 of 12 four-year institutions represented here. And there's so much ambiguity in these degree plans. And if we had every four-year institution here, it'd be even a lot larger. I mean, in my own system, A&M system, I get 2 colleagues here. I look at our degree plans, even in some particular areas, other than the upper division hours, are totally different. And we're in the same system. So it's very, very challenging task. I appreciate everybody being here and trying to work toward an end. So that being said, I guess we can start looking at the education side and maybe put some courses up there and kind of do what we did before and see where we are. Does that sound feasible? Mm-hmm. Any comments, questions, or anything by anybody before we get started? Yes, sir, David.
Sure. So, thanks, David.
Sure.
For this work that took place today. A point about the science votes here that are on this document. It's my understanding this was the final tally. We decided yesterday that the 3 with 12 votes would be accepted, and that we would still consider possibly others on the science side.
Yes, nothing was eliminated by that vote.
Yeah, only
We just agreed that those 3 on the science area would be in the FOS for science. That's what we voted on. Yeah. But that vote did not eliminate anything else. But we will address that today as well. You want to start there, or do you want to just start with the education?
I think we need to see the education, see how that pans out.
Okay. Okay. I guess I don't write.
You sure? You want to write?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do a good job.
Foundations or intro to Kines would be one.
A and B 1 and 2.
A and P 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Intro.
Right. Intro's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
It's the same.
That's the same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Fitness concepts.
That's the 3-unit class.
Yep.
Yes.
1308 or officiating.
Care and prevention.
So it's more about specificity and periodization. So the program planning exercise is more in depth. At least the way.
Elementary PE.
Everybody has the different.
Swimming.
Okay, and the prevention of injuries.
Got that?
It's already done, or correct?
Yeah.
We also offer personal and the community wellness.
Which one?
Personal and the community wellness.
Exactly. Like tech classes, cash reference classes, kind of help.
What do you think, Carol? What about CPR first aid?
Yeah.
Or is it the school?
CPR first aid?
teaching. Administration of sports programs class. Sport admin.
And they already said making nutrition. I don't think we need to put that there.
Physical activity.
Unless we think.
Let's try.
Okay.
This is general courses.
1 hour?
Yeah, 1,100 and 2,100.
Well, tell them, and we can build that. I got plenty of people with administration. We can teach that one easy. And everybody else.
Nutrition.
Do we want to specify that we want sports nutrition? Because if we say nutrition, then that's going to
Like
be
on
biology.
this? No, but like this one is stated for health and human performance. That's
Right. Because that, if you're looking at just nutrition, that's going to be biology 13.2.
Right.
Well,
Alan,
I was assuming that, but,
yeah,
I'm
by
just,
nutrition, can you put just H,
Emily,
just the initial HHP?
Nutrition,
For health
performance,
and
health
human
performance.
performance,
Shannon.
just to distinguish it from the biology, nutrition. Just team sports, motor development.
Team sports, you mean the activity course, or do you mean the teaching of team sports?
Methods.
That's the key.
That would be methods, right?
We went, well,
If it's methods,
That's at higher
Methods for
ed, that's not our
individual.
division.
no,
No, we
No,
can
it's
teach
lower.
methods.
that's where
It's
they're
lower
first
methods.
exposed
The
to.
coaching of,
That's what, part of their, well, I guess, it depends on who you have it, because some have it as with part of the coaching aspect. When they get to the upper level, before they get into their student teaching, they're learning the teaching aspect. So it's where you have it.
they're two different really. But as the ACGM defines
there
it,
is
there's
a-
only
that's
a
the elementary
coaching,
piece.
I
the
got it.
1321.
Can you put it up there?
Team
We
sport.
would have
Yeah,
to
but
create a
elementary
new
PE.
course.
Yeah, that needs to
Class, but it's cross-referenced. Unless it's put out this year.
Oh, I did call it out.
It's only for
And this is-
physical education classes.
Well, it's,
The methods of individual sports.
Individual and dual sports,
Individual dual sports,
lifelong
or
activity.
lifelong, yep.
No,
It's
those
kind
are
of a
two
list.
different ones.
Individual slash dual slash
Individual,
lifelong.
dual. Yeah.
Would those be 3 semester hours?
My school is one.
It's one, but it's 3 contact hours, but 1 credit hour because it's all lab.
anyone lump it.
Versus 3.
3 credit hours?
Big lecture.
Henry's is 3.
If it helps, what's up here on the screen? This is the course inventory of what is currently being offered at universities in Texas in the 3.1 CIP code. If it spurs your memory about what other courses are available. These are the
If we
ones
could
that-
keep the sidebars to a minimum, please, thank you.
These are the courses that are currently being offered around the state. I know many of them are familiar to you. Open study.
Assuming these are reported correctly.
You don't see a lot of skiing, ice skating.
Study abroad course.
I sorted by CIP code, but I can sort it some other way if you'd like to see it.
That is only one CIP code in which we exist.
That's right, that's just the 3.1.
51, 13, we're kind of lots of
It's
places.
not going to contain the biology courses. See the different titles of some of the classes.
Can you do it by course title?
course listed at University of Texas in Brownsville.
Mhm.
It just says nutrition.
Yeah.
Some of these will be upper division level courses, not all, of course, are in KCC.
She asked him, because he's paying through the current course that are
He's done for school.
just by title. He did it by university first. So we did it by title, so we got.
So again, it's worth keeping in mind when you're thinking about courses of which of the courses that are already being offered by many institutions, which ones have low enrollments, which ones have high enrollments. We've got that data as well. Sorry for the digression.
Okay.
Well,
Yes.
I'll propose something, a way to split the baby in half.
All right.
Both exercise science and exercise phys. So everybody's unhappy and we get to leave early. All feel the pain. We agree that 11 hours is core, right? A&P, intro kines, both of those.
So
We basically have a 20 unit core at the lower division level. That in exercise science, well, in fact, actually for exercise science or FIAD, you repeat, you get a choice. 3 units for activities or teaching activities. So it can be 3 individual classes or 1 3-credit class where you do individual dual sports. Concepts of fitness or motor development. Medical terminology or prevention and care. And in prevention and care, the way we handle it at Texas State is it includes all the CPR and first aid elements because athletic training is moving out of that.
Yep.
They'll maybe have some lecturers that help us teach the class, but they're not going to be interested in it per se. So I don't know if we have a key. Probably do it. Many of you have a KID prefix on prevention and care, or is there all of it? Okay, so then we have coverage to offer it there. And if we did that, that'd be more than most of us in the four-year universities would like to try to accommodate, but we would, and that would be something that is required or available for the 2-year institutions. And of course, all the other officiating, other stuff you could teach is certainly relevant and important, but it just doesn't have the coverage of being
So would you
required.
repeat those, Dwayne?
Well, it's basically 9 more hours.
What are those 9?
Fitness activities, we could call it, and it could be 3 1-unit courses or a 3-credit course, like many of you have, or I had when I was an undergrad.
Right.
Concepts of fitness or motor development.
As a either or?
Right. So if you're in exercise science, you may want to deal with adults and older adults, and you really don't want to think about the regression in that we're having right now as we're 30 years experienced. You'd much rather take a fitness class than a motor development class. And it would maybe be more appropriate. And then the last one is medical terminology or prevention and care. And the way this would work is both tracks could go either or. And that way, if you're in a school that didn't have a medical terminology class, you could get your first aid CPR done at Knudsen Junior College and still have it transfer. Just 4-year schools will struggle with how do we try to substitute and make this work, because we have very specific degree paths.
So,
David?
if I understand what you're saying, this applies to both the science and the phys ed?
Yeah.
I would only, not that that's not a great solution, I would just think that medical term and motor development, which I think is what you said as an either or?
No.
No, medical term or prevention and care.
Okay, yeah, medical term. So medical terminology is typically, I think, a 1 hour and not a required course, and
Depends.
care and prevention.
It's a 3 hour.
It's a lot of
It's a 3 hour.
It's a 3-hour,
Especially for
in the
For
nursing.
physical therapy track
across the hall,
students,
man.
that's a requirement.
I guess my thought is is medical terminology ever gonna be on the ed side, and then have we even decided we would take either one of those on the science side, which we hadn't yet, so.
The proposal.
I like the idea of kind of this, collage of classes, but I think the other thing here is we have already voted on these, even with this list, we gave.
I didn't make a motion, I just said, I threw this out as an idea.
Sure, but I'm just, I mean, I guess I didn't say this before we started writing these down. We've actually already voted and then just provide clarity and then maybe move to something like this where we see the ones with higher vote totals that still may be on, I don't know, 6 and above. If there's 6 and above on both lists, that might be a good guide to move to something like you suggested, as opposed to just naming the courses independent of the votes we've already given.
Did your suggestion involve, in addition to the courses we talked about yesterday that we voted on?
It would have to.
It's basically a jump to the end.
Right, right, but that included those plus more?
The 9,
Yeah.
the 9 plus 11, right?
Right.
I have one class that's on lower division in my
That's
current
it.
degree.
It's spreading the pain out for both types of institutions.
That would be a total radical change. I mean, the whole degree plan would change for us. The entire degree plan, except for one course. A 1 2-hour under lower division course right now.
I think the key point we're missing here is that this is going to happen.
Right.
The state wants this to happen. It's going to happen. For those of us in the four-year schools, the department chairs, we're going to have to adjust, okay? We just need to adjust as best we can that it doesn't cripple our degrees, all right? And it can be done. I'm not happy about this either, I assure you. I don't like being told what to do with my degrees. There's a department chair in here who does. Don't lie. You don't, all right? But I'm smart enough to know, and I've done this long enough in this state to know the state wants this to take place, and we need to try to find a way for it to take place. So we're going to have to
arguing
adjust.
against compromise, so don't misunderstand me. So
The one
but
concern
20
I have
hours is a
is
lot.
the motor devel course that keeps coming up. Now, that's not motor learning control.
No,
All right.
that's different.
And we don't even offer a devel class. But for those schools who do, how many of them is it a 2,000 or below class? Because of the schools who have it, I think typically it's 3,000 or above, correct?
Yeah.
My son went to tech and he had to take that too, and I know it was that. So, is it just one school in the state where it's a 2,000? I'm not so sure that should be on this
Can
list.
we use 2,000, isn't it?
I saw three.
Is motor development?
Motor development is 3,000.
3,000, yeah.
Motor control and learning is 4,000.
Yeah, felt it's a prereq, I imagine, for them, along with probably like spins and biomechanics.
3,000.
Why don't we go back to the votes and then go from there?
State office at 2,000. T. Austin, I never can't quite understand it. I think
No. Motor devel and motor learning are not the same
Two different courses.
Yeah, but the development's above it is 20.
They take my.
Oh, I see.
all my credit.
Again, why don't we start with the votes and go from there? We're like taking, why don't we go with the votes and then going from there and build towards what Swain suggests? I mean, we've already voted and now we
Do the same thing that we did yesterday, show of
Well, the starting point, let's just go through the process we did with the science and just vote and see where these numbers are. Yes.
Could I just get a clarification on the A&P? Is that taught in your kinesiology department or in your?
Biology. Has to come from biology, or they won't take it.
Right, just,
I'm sorry to clarify, our motor development is 2,000 actually. Is there anyone else? We're the only ones, or is that, who else is that?
Well, the reason you did that was for LCC.
Yep, so the LCC could transfer them in, that's right.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I'd like for us to further discuss Dwayne's proposal, because it sounds like it's a good compromise for everybody in the room. I mean, it takes care of, it includes the 11 hours we've all agreed on already, plus that it helps us fill out that other 9 hours at the end. And I think, like Dwayne said, it's a good compromise, and it'll let us jump to the end.
I agree, I just think we should.
And it gives
base it
some
on the votes.
flexibility it gives us some flexibility in the end as well.
Well, that
Can
A
I
and
ask-
P 1 and 2 will not count towards the 18 that ideally we're hoping to get to. All right, because that can be held within the gen ed. We all agree it needs to be on our FOS. We want all our kids to come in. They have to have that. But our goal was to get as close to 18 hours within Kines, if possible, to round out the 18 hours to yield 60 for the AS3, right?
Correct.
And this is going to be a long meeting because I
don't think
we can't.
If we don't do that for
Angela?
two-year institutions, we won't have, our programs will go down.
Excuse me, Angela?
Alan, I just had a question in relationship to the previous comment. Did I sleep through something yesterday that said that 18 was our goal?
No, we tried to put bookends around that. I gave that as just a kind of a target in the middle to aim from, because 18 is the number of hours that's left over after the 42-hour core. Please understand it. You don't worry so much about the core, because if a student wants to take other courses that are offered in the life sciences part of the core, then they can. You don't have to fill up all of those remaining 18 hours if you don't think that it's necessary for those students who are transferring for community.
Okay, a follow-up question.
You can fill them up. You can go over 18 hours. You can go under 18 hours. 18 is just a kind of a conversation starter, because that's the amount of time that's left over.
And as a follow-up question to that, the example that you used yesterday of Mexican American Studies, I know Spanish is in the core, and I don't know enough about that particular major to know how many of those.
They took that out of it.
There are probably 2 of those courses that can count towards the core and literature core, the history core.
Thank you.
Mary, you were saying something?
When Kines was taken out of the core years ago, it affected, our numbers went down. So teaching the 3-hour lecture courses and making articulations with the 4-year institutions to make sure we have it. Now we have pathways, and now we're working on all these different institutes. But if a lot of these courses, not teaching a lot of these, you may not accept it, or y'all may have it offered in a different way. But speaking for the Alamo colleges, we've got, out of the 5 colleges, each one of us teaches anywhere from 4 to 6 sections of CPR and first aid, because they need their AHA certification to get in PT programs, the OT programs, the nursing programs, for clinicals, concepts of fitness. All those classes we teach all the time, and depending on where you're going, what institution you're transferring to, it's going to vary on who takes what. But you're going to know that the moment we talk to you. We're going to make you're taking the right stuff. But eliminating it off this FOS, they're not going to take anything, and then we're going to go back to where we were, over 10 years ago.
I think, again, kind of the point, yes, this is happening to some degree, but the key is that by putting anything, even intro to Kines, requires the 4-year institutions to apply it to the degree. So I agree with your sentiment, but I mean, that is the crux of what we're doing, that to include CPR or any one of these, even A&P, is that the 4-year institutions are agreeing that we will be required to apply it to the kind component. And so, I mean, that's really it. I would like to think, again, we've already given votes for the ed, so I think to follow up on getting towards Dwayne's compromise, we have the votes already, by way of email at least, if everybody responded. Let's start from there and then see what we can do to make the compromise work, whether that's an either or, and at least have it guided by the votes we've really already given, which preceded this list here that's clearly not getting any. I mean, there's courses up here that didn't get any votes. So.
Excuse me, Conrad?
I just want to say that while we try to figure out, I understand that 4-year institutions are very hesitant to change their degree plans, and I know that's your baby. It's my baby too, in our world, in our pond. Our job is to complete students and graduate them at our level and give them the best opportunity to transfer. That's all I do in life. I adjust my degree plan yearly on what's going on at the universities that are around me, that I talk in contact with. That's my job. If I'm by Texas State, I'm going to talk to Texas State. Go, what are you doing? How can I help you? What can I change? Here's the books I'm using. Here's the stuff. The thing is, we have this core that really is this chasmic of all these other component area options that are different for every single school. So it makes this mess. Like ours, we have behavioral science component area option in personal, community, and health. So instead of taking psychology, you could take that class in our core. So every core is different in how it works, right? Because it fits in differently and you apply it and it goes through. I think the part of this is the apprehension that we have from the junior college point of view, and then I'll be quiet, is that we want to be allowed to still have these relationships where I know that it may not be in the FOS that we agree on today, but allow me to teach some of these classes. Don't take them away from me from the ACGM, because I know that my neighboring institutions are taking those credits right now for Kines majors. So it may not be in this room, but I guess just narrowing the list and going, stripping it down to this, for the ACGM, not the FOS, different conversation, is something I was, at least just to get out in there. So I'll be quiet.
So I completely hear what you're saying and understand it. But from my perspective at my university, if we're talking about what's best for the student, and if what's best for a particular student is to go through junior college and then end up with a 4-year degree, at my university it's best for them not to graduate with an AA. It's best for them to get their university core plus whatever this field of study is, but not worry about the whole AA. Because then they're taking the right number of courses without taking things that don't do them any good in my department.
That's the conflict. That's the conflict.
That's the crux of it. That's the crux of it.
Like, I can't touch his program because I just used your program as an example 2 days ago about how great it's up and coming, right? People are talking and chatting about it, the PT program, right? So we're talking about how to get in, and my kids won't get into this program. They're not going to get in. And it's just,
I wouldn't say that at all.
I mean, I'm not feeding you. So, I mean, not that I didn't want to, but I'm not giving them what you want, because I'm giving them totally different.
Trust me.
You know what I mean?
We take everybody.
But there's a distinction. There's a distinction. The PT program is a doctorate. It's not in.
Right.
It's outside of your department, and so we're
our Kinesiology. Trust me. If they finish your program, we'll take them.
Good.
They may not get to PT school, but we'll take
Because
them.
I get a lot of, I mean, we talk, right? As colleagues, we all talk to each other about, Kines is like a big fraternity or sorority. Like, we know each other. We all intermingle, and we know what's going on over there. And that's what we do at junior college. We find out what you're doing. What's tech doing right now? What's going on over there? We put our feelers out, because if we didn't do that, we wouldn't have a job. We're just asking, what can we do as professionals to have this compromise, because everybody's going to have to change. There is no not change in education. I mean, that's just never stagnant. It's always an evolving animal. You either lead or you get left behind. Kines is a tendency to kind of forget about each other and go, where are we? And here we are.
Okay. Well, we're going to be forever all at our podiums, and I feel on both sides. I'm married to someone who teaches the kinesiology program in a community college, so I don't even know if I'm at home to come back to. Maybe live with you, Chris. But I think Dwayne offers a nice proposal. I think we should consider that and talk about it. And this is an additional 9, and see if that were to come to fruition, if we could agree that, even if that means some 4-year institutions may have to make some adjustments. I mean, we're talking about and it could go across, and maybe it's even better just to stick with 1, but I think we could look at that as a starting point. And if we were to agree that, say for example, that doesn't mean we can't still consider something else as well But if we don't start, or, you know, we're going to just be here talking until the end of the day and not be done.
So I just have a question. Okay, so I'm not authorized to say that my university can change a degree plan.
Well, you don't have to. If the state says this is what's happening, they will tell you.
What happens if the faculty don't?
We don't have
just
to
do it
change
for
our
you?
degrees per se.
No.
We'll have to substitute. These
Right.
have to count
Have
for
to
the
count,
degree.
okay.
So
Right.
somehow, some way, it takes the place of a free elective or some other courses is this. Or to make life easy, you could change your degree to match this. But you don't have to change your degree. I went through all mine last night, worst possible case, to see, what am I going to have to do, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not going to change a single degree of mine. But I went and found for most of them what I would do and where I would have to fit in if a certain course.
And I did the same thing. It was like the motor development's a 3,000 level course. The care and prevention is a 3,000 level course. Now, the quality of instruction at community colleges, the people that I know, is outstanding, whether they have a master's degree or a PhD. And to think that just because someone doesn't have a PhD, they can't do that is ludicrous. But on our education degree, we have 27 hours of education courses that are upper division. So we are not hurting for upper division hours. So if a student came in with care and prevention and motor development, even our elementary class is a 3,000 level class. If they came in with those 9 hours from a community college, and that's content was the same, I would take them without any hesitation because we got plenty of upper division hours. That's just, and I know I'm not the chair anymore. I did it for 14 years, but I know my chair, and I'm the undergraduate coordinator, and I called him last night, and he said, yeah, I wouldn't have an issue with that. So I don't know if any other programs are heavy on that education side in that program. That's why I think that could
Well,
be a
they are
possibility.
because the state
Exactly.
has to have those, the prof ed core.
Right.
Has to be
So
advanced.
but I do think this is a good
24 hours has to be.
Yep.
I think there may be an assumption that the junior and senior year at four-year institutions have any flexibility. And
What you saying?
have any flexibility.
Minimal flexibility.
Very, very minimal flexibility. And again, I mentioned yesterday, we're in the College of Arts and Sciences. We have a required 18-hour minor upper division courses. And then we have a 39-hour upper division major with with 3 of those hours, the intro at the freshman or sophomore year. We upload the freshman and sophomore year all the prerequisite courses, primarily in the sciences, and I'm not talking about education, we don't have that. So we have more sciences which are taught by somebody else. So we give away, somebody else teaches the entire first 60 hours except for 3. And then we protect jealously the bottom 60 hours in the junior senior level. And so us and other departments, if we have these 9 hours, there have to be substantive changes in our degree program. And again, that doesn't go very well with faculty, it doesn't go very well with degree plans, and I understand the state can impose whatever it wants to, but at the end of the day, we have a lot of smart people all over the state and four-year institutions who have said it is in the best interest of students to have these courses.
I mean, the course, the content of that course is taught at a community college, and it's at a 2,000 level, and yours is a 3,000 level, and it's the same content. I don't see the issue there if it doesn't hurt your 36 and 45 upper division hours. That's just me personally.
For example, the courses that Dwayne's talking about are not required classes in our major.
Well, that's why I was talking about maybe going through the vote, but I was just using those as an example. David?
Again, I think you said a moment ago that we've got to kind of, maybe it's good that we stop having this discussion. I think this is just an extension of what we were saying for at least the last 2 hours. That's yesterday, it's unchanged. Is it appropriate or is it required that we can move to consider the votes first and then go back? Because otherwise, like again, we've already voted on the ed side by way of email. I'd like us to consider that as the starting point for Dwayne's proposal based on the votes, and because we're talking about motor development, it got 3 votes, 4 votes, and maybe that'll wind up because of discussion moving up to be accepted. But I think it'd be good if we just took the step and considered our votes, and we still have to go back and consider the science side. We've
Just a
not
clarification,
finalized.
David, it was, I think you would call that a straw poll, not a vote.
Sure.
Yeah.
Not a
That's what I was
vote.
gonna say, because after we adjourned yesterday, I left, and I had no clue about any of this as you're calling it a vote.
Perfect.
Yeah.
No, I didn't call it a
I'm
vote.
just saying,
Not a
I
vote.
think it should be a start point, and then we'll get
Okay.
back to discussion.
Let's,
We'll get into that.
Carol, you want to go just vote on this right side?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about education.
I didn't know.
Go down the list.
Thought about it a little bit differently.
And because we got a straw vote here, and if you don't have that class in your program, but I would ask you to consider, because we're trying not to get the community colleges as well, but have a good FOS, go down the list, and if there's a course on there that's a 3,000 level, and you got some wiggle room in your upper division hour, to consider that. I'm not going to tell you have to vote for it. Yes, ma'am?
I know Chuck mentioned they don't have an education program, we don't. And so
Okay,
I'm not going to vote because I don't think that's appropriate for me to vote.
I agree.
And Chuck can do whatever he wants to, but we should not influence the vote one way or the other because we don't offer that
Okay.
program.
No, I'm here to
All right.
bot.
Okay,
We'll come up to 12 or
Well, we'll
whatever.
talk.
It's not an actual vote, so it doesn't matter. It's just a straw poll.
Oh, man.
okay, so we all know what we're doing here? 4 years? If a student came in with the ones we're getting ready to vote on, just to see where we are, what kind of, what that numbers look like. So foundations. Foundations or intro to Kinesiology, intro to,
These are just 4-year?
just 4 years. If a student came in with this on their transcript, would that fit into your program?
In 1 out of 4. So I'm
me?
still voting.
9.
One thing I did want to say to our 2-year colleagues, and I think you've heard it in some of our 4-year colleagues' voices, is that what I proposed was a painful compromise, because I have 4 ESS programs, and only one of them requires Intro to Kinesiology.
Right. But we're just.
But I'm voting
We'll get to
positively
that.
for it.
But we're
So-
talking about education only, right?
I know, but
We'll get to
but
it.
I wanted to get my colleagues the message that
Yeah, I agree.
we understand that this affects you and your faculty and your programs, but it affects us too,
Get to it.
just as intensely. It may not appear to you, but it does.
Well, I think I'm one of the us, but AMP 1 and 2 are 1.
By the way, it's written here.
But it's not going to be in the Kines.
Okay.
We're not teaching it. I'm just saying if we do the FOS, we can require stuff in the course. So I'm just saying if that was something you'd like to see in the
Your
course.
hands up higher, please.
Yes.
I know Kines doesn't teach it. They're not going to teach it. Well, some do.
Well, we could ask for it to be.
We
That's
do
separate.
it.
We're
It's all
taking
separate.
steps to,
It's all
I mean,
separate. Let's
most
just
of our, 3 of those 4 programs
Hey, let's just vote.
require
We'll
an
discuss
additional
afterwards.
net PT 34.
Let's just wait on the discussion and just vote. The concepts of fitness, the 3-hour.
AMP 2, AMP 2.
Oh, sorry. I thought we were voting those together. AMP 2.
MP2, yes.
I started looking for jobs.
9? Did
Oh, I'm
somebody not
sorry,
vote?
I'm 10.
10.
I'm thinking about.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, the 3-hour lecture, concepts of fitness.
I'd make it work, although it doesn't exist.
8.
Officiating,
1.
care and prevention of athletic injuries.
6.
A coaching type course. 6. Swimming.
2.
Personal and community wellness.
Is that 1304?
Is that a health class?
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be a health class.
Personal
It
community
could be a
health,
KINE prefix or HLTH.
But is it the same one?
I don't know what the number is on the book.
1304 is the
Is it-
health class.
It's
Okay, well,
1304.
we have personal community health under science and personal community wellness.
Yeah.
Was that the intent?
Or was it class?
There's
Same
a
thing.
slight
Same thing.
difference
Okay,
in
got
the
it.
naming, but
Then we need to change
the
it.
idea is the
Same course.
Same course.
We need to, then we need to change that wellness to health to make it consistent.
Sure.
That's sub 1304.
Yes, personal and community health.
Okay.
And I would argue that the title is not as important as the content, but.
So
we revote?
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
let's vote on personal and community health. Who's voting? Can we vote? Anybody voting, not voting? One. CPR, first aid.
For education.
Physical activity class, a 1 hour class.
5, 6. I got 6.
Nutrition, health and human performance nutrition.
4. That's pretty impressive.
Team sports.
Teaching of?
Teaching of.
Teaching of.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Motor development. Not motor learning. Elementary PE. Wow.
6.
Yeah, pretty good.
Individual dual lifetime sports.
Teaching of?
Teaching of.
Yeah. Now be mindful, this vote is 2 less universities voting because they don't have education. So it's not 12. So anything with a 10 is a.
I can't see. I'm so glad individual is 5, the last one.
Yeah.
5.
Yes.
Okay. That's good.
Well, Dwayne, 8 out of 10 on your concepts of fitness on your proposal is in there. The motor development only. What was the or with your motor development, Dwayne?
Concepts of fitness.
I have 2 plus 2s all over the place.
Your first part was fitness activities of 1.
Yeah,
I have
or
a
either as
3 hour or 1 hour.
individual courses or,
Or you want
because, and I failed to vote for, when I was undergrad, we had a 3-credit team sports teaching class and an
Right.
individual dual sports class. And because of pressures from education and not letting them take a lot of pedagogy classes that we really did teach.
Right.
We worked very hard, and
I'm just trying to look at these numbers in terms of your proposal, not counting foundations and A&P, obviously. So the concepts of fitness would be a pretty good vote getter. The motor development. Was only half the vote. And then medical term or medical or care and prevention.
Looks like care and prevention can go both ways.
Right.
I think that's a good one. Care and prevention. Common first aid, always vote 3. Care and prevention.
Can we get a vote for intro to psychology in Ed 2? Because that was pretty high in the science one as well. We didn't put intro to psych up for education.
To be like in the core?
Yeah, can we get a feel for how many, because I know it's part of our PE degree that they have to take it.
So put intro to psych on there, Alan, please, sir.
But they can take SOC, can't they, instead?
Yep.
Not at, well.
Well, our
so
school, you can do either one.
1301.
Yeah, but we make them take psych.
Make ours take psych.
Yeah.
We prefer.
But if you're not making them, though, when they get to us, then they might.
But if it's only FOS, then they would.
That's why I'm saying,
Yes.
can we get a vote for it with that?
Okay, so considering on the education and maybe even a crossover on the intro to psychology as a requirement in the core versus sociology, because most cores have an option in that area, the behavioral sciences. So can we vote if that We'd want that in the FOS for education. Anyone?
Psych 2301?
Yeah, 2301.
1301.
Yes. Intro to psych.
Did you get 7?
On where?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
So they do
7.
that. Try anyway. So.
6, 7,
No, I'm sorry, I voted late.
8.
8.
That's 8.
Yeah, that certainly could go both ways too.
Yeah. So that's one that can go both.
And there's one more, I'm sorry, and I keep forgetting to add this.
We don't let them take coaching.
You four-year schools, does everybody in math require algebra
Yeah, we do.
No.
for the 4 years, or can they take the lower math?
We require college.
State requires a minimum of.
It's actually a prereq for our course.
Algebra is the lowest you can go.
Okay, scratch it then. All right.
So that's automatic.
Yeah.
Now, some schools allow them to take higher.
Yeah, you can go.
Yeah.
No problem.
Most of our students take 1324, the business calc.
Which
Instead
is
of, that is
above,
higher
yeah.
than college algebra. We don't have hardly anyone taking algebra anymore.
That's good. Due to just adding more on the left side of the degree.
That's a fitness. Intro to psych. Can I make a motion as a chair?
Probably.
You get a-
Whisper it to me and
Yeah,
I'll do it.
whisper.
I'll make a motion to use the concept of fitness. Intro to psych.
To accept things.
Yeah, see the intro to psych,
Yeah.
bottom 8. The 8 concept of fitness at the top. And the 6 care and prevention.
With care prevention, I'd want to include in a separate conversation. Because I think we could parlay that into both. Okay, move to a motion.
Beyond, well,
A&P.
well, that can also include A&P
Yeah.
and also foundation.
Do we need to pull between 1 FOS instead of 2?
We're gonna talk about 1.
Okay.
So a motion.
So.
Motion for the top
foundations,
4. Yeah, the top 4.
Yep, top 4.
We have
Intro to
Also,
psych.
Intro to psych. And care prevention. All right, David?
I'd like to make a motion.
We got a motion on the table.
What's the
Make sure I'm
motion?
using the correct terminology, that we can.
This for the education?
For the education that we, vote or scroll, poll, whichever one's most appropriate, that we can circle in red. The top 4 here, foundations, AP 1 and 2 concepts, intro to psychology, and drum roll, care and prevention for the education sequence.
What about elementary?
Second that. This is not eliminating anything. This is a proposal for those 6. Would you repeat that just for everyone?
Sure, again.
Well, he's marking them in red.
Okay, that's, yep.
Is that right? So the motion on the board is for the FOS in education. Those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 courses. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a second by Chris.
Karen.
All right, discussion. Angela.
Does
Alan,
not
is there going to
eliminate
be
it.
2 FOSs, one in kinesiology
Yes.
science and one in kinesiology education?
Yes.
Yes, that's what we voted
Yes.
on yesterday.
We voted on that.
We voted on that yesterday.
Yes.
That's interesting. That's not what I thought we voted on yesterday.
Yeah, we
That's
voted.
what we did.
Okay,
We
that's
voted.
fine.
Yeah.
Henry.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
I would like for us to consider an or to the 213, the prevention and care of athletic injuries.
What is 213?
Well, prevention and care of
Care
athletic
prevention.
injuries, for us, is 213.
Okay.
And or being first aid or care and prevention in the teaching.
So that would just be an or.
Yeah.
So that'd say friendly, that'd be friendly
fine.
amendment.
Oh, I like that. I second
Would you accept that as a friendly amendment?
Seems pretty friendly, yeah. Because of the KC ties, sure.
He's very friendly.
Care and prevention.
I like it.
I think it makes sense.
So, yes.
So we have the original proposal, and then we have a friendly amendment on the care and prevention to be that or
CPR first aid.
CPR first aid.
So we're at 9 hours kines right now.
That'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
9.
9
Yes.
hours Kines. That's 3 classes.
For education.
CPR
AP1,
is.
AP2.
Did we get a second on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, from
Yes,
Aaron.
discussion.
Yeah. The only concern I have is that it throws out the physical activities.
Well, we're not done yet.
We're not done.
We're not done
We're
yet.
just doing these.
Yeah.
We're not throwing anything out.
Just like the other vote, we didn't go back to that table
We're
side.
just
yet.
establish a foundation.
Which I think we got.
I'm just trying to get us going. So,
In terms of the field of study, we don't have a precedent for more unless the courses are exactly the same in
Why not just add
they
it?
just have a different name or number or designation.
Because.
Oh, I hear you, Dave. I got
I'm
it.
not
I'm
saying
sorry.
it can't be done, but it's gonna cause some problems. It's gonna be confusing for the institutions, it might be confusing for students, it might cause some problems when courses are indicated on transcripts if they're part of the field of study. If a student took both courses.
well, I would argue that for, we have multiple
Our degrees are littered with ors.
Ors. I don't think the institution is going to have a problem, and this is a
It'd be great if
proposal
they
that
could
would go
work with us
to
on
the
that.
coordinating board for their, they have to kind of decide that. So they're asking us what we think we really would like to see happen. If it just a fact, Jack, cannot happen, then it can't, but.
But that would come
In
back to
all
us by the.
sincerity, I feel that first aid and CPR goes best with teaching, and prevention and care goes best with the human performance.
Well, we're coming back to the science side too.
Good point.
No, your proposal is dead on, because at a lot of schools who teach the prevention and care, that's where they do the CPR as well. So it's dead on.
But it's not even in, it's not written in the ACGM that they have to do that. So it's not required. So
We
talking about
most of the
4 years,
4 years
you can
do
tell
that.
them to-
So if you talk to your 4 years, most of the 4 years are doing that right now. So I kind of just steer towards whatever they're doing, because that way I'm
That
on
we added
course.
to our curriculum.
We just don't talk very well all the time.
Well, I would suggest to community colleges, if, say, we aren't allowed to do the or, and say the care and prevention gets in there, and you feel strongly that that first aid should be in there, then create a care and prevention class that would include the first aid.
And actually what we are doing is
We
to
can't
protect the
create
interests of the
classes like
community
that, though.
colleges.
I mean, we are dictated by ACGM. We would love to be able to create classes, but unless a board institution says, we want you to have this special class and it's a special needs class, we can't build anything.
But we were told that we can make that suggestion.
As a state, but not as an individual
If you say
college.
you want to add something to ACGM,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's like whatever I want.
You could also alter
person teaching it as a
If you felt like you wanted more first aid.
That's part of what we're doing.
Okay, so as long as it's gonna be statewide.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, that's what we're suggesting.
This would be that.
And you could write that in as a curriculum, and it would just be a part of that class.
Yes.
That'd be all right.
That's a two for.
Um,
Question? Call for the question on the motion?
Hang on a sec.
Can we just have a vote
I
on
just
that and
wanna-
then move on to this next thing?
Is there any other discussion on these 6? All right, this is a vote for everybody. Carolyn? You want to call that vote?
It's not eliminated.
That's right.
We're not eliminating, it's okay.
Go
What's the
ahead,
status of the federal?
Okay.
The or stays.
The or stays at this moment?
We will have to add something else.
Yep.
We will have to add something else. Have to, not.
I don't care if you don't like it.
Have to. No, but we're gonna have to, we are gonna have to add.
Maybe they have to adjust.
If we turn something in that doesn't have.
I think that's good,
I would
yeah.
think at least.
Okay, so for the education, FOS,
12 hours, we're probably gonna have to freaking
the
do
question
that.
is
So,
foundations, AMP1, AMP2, concepts of fitness, care prevention, or first aid, or a hybrid of combining those,
person does not need.
an intro to psychology. All those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Hold them up high and let's count them.
I
Alan, can
think
you
we
do
have
this?
a clear.
It's unanimous.
I just want to see
It's
what the
all-
vote is. That's everybody? No, minus
Two
two.
abstentions.
Right.
Two.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Those against and abstentions.
They're
2
saying.
abstentions.
the price wasn't right.
Here we go. That's a great start.
Chair,
Yes, sir.
with that said, I would like to move to get us evened out here, that in science, we expand the red to include fitness concepts, care personal injury, or CPR first aid, and intro to psych. And then both would be at the same spot.
Okay, we have a motion
Welcome.
on the science side to include the psychology, the concepts of fitness 3-hour course we just voted on, and care and prevention for the FOS in science.
Or CPR first
Or
aid.
CPR. Do I have a second?
I have a question.
We have a second.
I
Discussion.
have a question.
Hang on.
I have a
we have
question on that intro to psych. Is that taught within the kinesiology?
No, those just courses in the
But
course.
it's in the core. Every student has a shot at it, so it's not a big issue.
It's,
Kyle.
Chris, would you consider taking care and prevention out of that?
Me, personally, yeah, because we don't even teach it.
We don't
But-
teach that or first aid.
But we, yeah. well,
As we did it there.
TWs are-
Angela?
But there's a
One of our
number of
largest
schools.
majors on campus is psychology. And if we tell them that among our 1,500 majors, half of them, and I have no idea how many are taking in the behavioral area psychology, not that they've got to teach 750 more students, they can't do that. In other words, we can't, the A and P makes sense because our students are already
We're not talking about taking it there, we're talking about probably talking to the community college and transfer it over, so they already have it
Transferring,
there.
when it transferred, it's acceptable.
You don't have to
You're not going
change
to
your
teach it.
degree if you don't want to.
It says that we have to have in our degree plan psychology.
It doesn't say that?
No.
It
Yes,
says
it
you have
does if
to,
it's in the FOS.
no, you've got to count it for your degree. It can count as a free elective. You
We
can
don't have
substitute it
any
for
of
something
those.
else.
No, in the core, they have component
You can
area
substitute
options.
it for.
Your school has the same ones.
If the student has already checked that box at the first level as a transfer student, and they've taken sociology, then if you put it in the field of study, we at the four-year institution for our students have to tell them they have to take it.
No.
No, you don't.
You have to accept that psych, if they already have a sociology,
No, I'm talking about it, our freshmen that come to us.
They take whatever your degree plan says.
that's it.
You're in charge then. We have no.
This is for the transfer student
field of study
who
is
comes to you.
Field of
No,
study, it
no,
says
that's
that's in the
not.
field of
It's
study.
not.
That's not correct.
That's not correct.
At all.
This says
We have to offer these courses to our students if they come in as freshmen, anything we approve.
Yes.
Yes,
Right.
Yes.
This is a
Yes.
radical change.
that's what
We
this
can't-
says.
We do not have to change our degree plan.
We don't. But they're already doing it. They're already doing psychology.
Hang on a second. Alan, can you clear this up?
That's part of the core.
It's part of the course.
Listen, hey, time out.
The coordinating board hopes that over time you will change your degree plans to even out the difference between your native students and your transfer students. If you don't change your degree plans, then the transfer students will be coming in and graduating from the programs with a slightly different education than your native students. We're hoping that over time that will go away. But in the meantime, you're right. You only have, if you have a freshman coming into Texas Tech, you don't have to require that freshman to take intro to psychology. But if you get a transfer student who's completed a field of study from any 4 or 2-year institution, and they've taken this field of study, you're going to have to find room in your curriculum to give them 3 hours of credit.
Which is typically going to be in the core. And that's not changing anything at your university.
But I don't think you answered the question as I understood it. What about a native student who takes sociology, but psychology is in the FOS? Does that student also have to take psychology?
No.
You're in charge of your own curriculum.
So the field of study does not apply to a student who's a
It's about
4 years.
transfers.
It's all about transfers.
Only.
Only. So you don't have to go change your degree plan.
Like I said, over time.
That's what I'm saying. So if someone comes in with, say, a care intervention, you don't have it, then you may have to accept it for something.
Not the way it was
You will have to
presented,
accept
to my
I know.
understanding.
I'm saying you're going to have to accept it for something, but if they start in your program and it's not in there, they don't have to do it.
I think the intention is over time to narrow the achievement gap between transfer and native students. And I don't think anybody likes it when transfer students have a different course selection in education than they do. So we're hoping that will go away over time, but we're not expecting an overnight change in every institution.
I don't think there's going to be any change.
But over time, we're hoping as you revise the catalogs, as you have your
They're just gonna go in.
can incorporate field
Well, that's what he said. He said
Okay,
that.
thank you,
Put it in
Al.
there.
Any other discussion about
It's
the,
completely different.
folks, any other discussion about the motion?
Discussion. Any more
About-
discussion?
It doesn't limit addition to future courses to either track. This is
No.
like the previous.
We're just
vote.
making another vote. We had a vote over here, we had a vote over there, none of that, all that's still possible? All this is possible, we're just making a vote just to try to.
I have a question.
Those
So
three
you
to
added a
include
couple
intro
courses
to
like Psych there and
concepts
something.
of
Does that include in the other
prevention,
high
or
vote,
CPR or
straw poll
CPR.
vote getters yesterday?
It is the highest ones.
These
From
are the ones.
yesterday.
Okay. So
Yeah.
there's no change.
No, no, no.
So this is confirming presumably what we
Right.
agreed to yesterday.
So the motion to add to the FOS, which currently has AMP 1 and 2 and Intro to Kines, for the Science FOS would be for our student who was transferring to a four-year school, not making anybody change their degree plans, Intro to Psychology, care and prevention of injuries or first aid, and the Intro to Psychology.
No, the
I'm
concept of
sorry.
fitness.
On concepts of
Down there, yeah.
That one, yeah.
where's the red? I can't see. There you go. Concepts of fitness. So we have, that's 3. Intro, psych, care and prevention, concepts of fitness, added to the FOS. Anybody not understand that proposal? All right, all those in favor of adding those 3 to the Science FOS, please raise your hand.
Concepts was the last one, I wasn't sure.
We're doing good.
See, we're getting right spots.
Henry, are you up or down?
Oh, I raised,
Are you up or down?
I thought they.
Okay.
I just have 2 that didn't vote.
Any nays? 2.
against.
Any abstentions?
Abstentions.
Oh, motion passed.
Motion
We're
passes.
making progress.
This is
I
wild.
would entertain any other motions for either FOS. Oh, I'll tell you what, can we take a 5-minute break?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so
So
much.
we can do a lot of chatting.
The physical activity,
Okay.
is that the 1 hour?
Okay.
PE elementary?
PE is 3.
But that's what you're talking about, PE for elementary?
Yes.
Okay,
things like they really know us, so they just.
These are actually very good. Coaches call it behind his back. The other coaches.
We would entertain any motions from anybody about anything, any other considerations, either in the FOS for science or education. Yes, sir, Tim.
I'll move that we include physical activities in both, and then we can just, I'll tell you why I move that.
Okay.
3 hours of it?
Yes.
Okay. So is that the
However you want to, however.
three of 1 hour, 1 hour or 1 3 hour?
Sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. Seconded.
And that would include the 1164? It could be any, it could be swimming, it could be a general fitness, it could be, okay.
Can we have a second before we discuss?
1164 is kind of a wellness, a 1 hour wellness, half and half,
It can
yeah.
be, because that's.
Could we have a second before we discuss?
We did.
Who?
I
seconded it.
He seconded it.
All right, sorry.
So, I guess allow me to, may I
Yes,
just
please,
motion?
Yeah.
please elaborate.
I think of all this discussion, this is the one I feel most strongly about. We're in kinesiology, and if we do not require students to be active or have experience with activity, we're setting ourselves up for failure. Over the course of my career, as we have exploded, we have more and more students that are coming to us that do not have any experience with activity. When I teach exercise physiology and you talk about running a mile in 5 minutes, and they go, everybody goes, oh yeah, I could do that. You go, yeah, let's see this. So, more and more our students have absolutely no experience with any activity whatsoever, which is distressing. So I think, and with universities pulling requirements for activity out of the core last several years, I think we have to put this in. That's my rationale.
So that's for both of them? It's for both, Tim, for both of them?
Chris,
Okay.
would it be an issue? Would it be an issue if in the science track the activities be restricted to fitness base, and then in the education track they can choose from the whole array?
I'll take that as a friendly amendment. I'm good with that.
Just for the discussion's sake, can you just distinguish examples there? I think at the advising level where this would be, all these things are going to be occurring.
At each school they could define them differently, but the fitness activities would be weight training, jogging circuit training, even aquatics of some sorts as well.
And then alternatively.
And all those would count in ed as well, but then golf and volleyball and bowling and whatever else would also count in ed.
But those you're suggesting for clarity would not count
science
on the science side.
So the science side would be.
Or not be required to.
It would be a lecture class, like a 3-hour lecture class versus the 3 in.
No. The activities are going to be on both sides. It's just the ones in the science need to be fitness.
Fitness related.
Weight training.
Education could have those as well as the, what we call recreation sport activities.
Kyle?
Where does the basketball fit?
And again, the schools can determine each one. Like swimming, I could easily see go be defined as both. Yeah, that's what I would suggest.
You know, like we had, several years ago when I was chair, we had some kids come out of several of those, and we had a coaching class that actually was a 3-hour class at the time. And I counted those 3 activity classes for that coaching class just to help them with the transfer. There was a low division coaching class, and so, I mean, so you can apply that any way you want to.
I propose this because the exercise science students, those of us who teach in that realm, we know what we want them to have. We want to have weight training and whatnot. And if they walk in with golf, bowling, and racquetball, they're going to be missing out on some things that they need to have.
Shelley?
I would rather not include PHED 1164 in
What
those.
is that?
I agree.
Please, for us who don't.
It is the half and half class.
Half and half what?
It's a wellness,
Introduction to physical fitness and
Wellness, where you're doing the health portion, and then it's a half lecture, pretty much half lab.
So that's not the concepts of fitness?
No.
Okay.
It's a 1 hour course.
So 1 hour course.
Shelley, why can't that be part of the fitness base? Because that really is, to me, when I teach that course, that's more fitness intensive. Like that's more instructive type of exercise science, right? That you could inject into that curriculum if you wanted to, or whatever you want to guide it, or what you feel is best. So why can't that be part of that 1 to 2 classes that you're going to teach? So let's say you did a strength conditioning, and then you did an 1164. Man, you could work magic with that.
Because our classes,
No?
ours is more health-based. So it's not going to be the exercise science aspect of it.
Okay.
I mean,
In addition to that, ours meets once, once a week?
Mhm.
So the course description of
Yeah,
that,
in
does anybody want to hear the
No,
course
I mean-
description of that course?
Y'all listen.
Do you want to hear the actual course description that's in the approved
Please, yeah.
book?
Yeah.
Because it says the course will provide an overview of lifestyle necessary for fitness and health. Students will participate in physical activities and assess their fitness status.
Yeah.
Students will be introduced to the concepts of proper nutrition, weight management, cardiovascular health, flexibility, and strength training.
As an exercise.
sounds like a-
Scientist,
sounds
I'd
like
actually
what-
prefer that course over a lot of
I
the
would
ones that
agree.
they-
Me too.
And that's just one credit course.
Shelley, what is it gonna do?
How's that gonna
I'm
hurt?
okay with it.
Okay.
If that's what y'all want, I'm good. I don't care. We teach it anyway.
So,
David?
with respect to your proposal, am I hearing that it could be one of 3 these activities courses? Chris, what you suggested is we distinguish that it would be the fitness-based, still to be determined by the institution, and now, if I understand correctly, or this 3-hour concepts of fitness based on that.
No.
No.
This is an activity course she's
This is a
talking
Right,
different
this is
course.
1164 is a 1 hour,
A
1 hour.
Gotcha.
Do what you want with that.
Yeah, concepts is something.
Totally different. Gotcha. So that's one of the 3.
So the 3 credit option is an activity and that a person in pedagogy could involve teaching of individual and dual sports or whatever your institution wanted to, correct?
As long as they're being active.
Right.
That's
Yes.
my emphasis.
Fine with me.
I don't want them sitting half the time, more than half the time. They do that already.
We have a lot of 1-sport wonders and a lot of 0-sport wonders.
A lot of wonders.
So the varsity sports classes would count on the teaching
Education
side? Okay.
Yes, sir.
On the ed side.
No.
Those don't
No.
count for
They don't
degrees at all.
count.
What are those?
No.
Those don't count for degrees.
Yeah, I stopped putting my athletes in varsity sport. Like, I don't even put that
Well,
on
they
there.
make us
So
put
I was
our
like,
athletes in
take that
those.
off.
I know, but it won't count toward a
I
degree.
see that, they all
They'll
run
have to
away.
pay for it.
I got all those credits, it didn't do me any good. Track and football.
You guys would be like, go away, Connor, go away.
I think that distinction is important because a lot of institutions, by virtue of playing basketball for the varsity, you get credit.
Yep.
And I think as a discipline, that is something that we should frown upon.
You should.
Yeah, so that we are talking
That's why they're
about
not gonna take it.
instructional-based classes, not playing sport for the institution.
They choose 3.
Okay, so, would you, your motion, just to make sure we're clear, one more time?
Oh, yeah, so I think I got this right based on what Tim originally said and what someone added to it. To include physical activity courses in the science-based, which would include fitness-based activities like resistance training and conditioning, etc., and education-based can be fitness-based or purely activity-based, i.e. lifetime sports, bowling, etc., kinesiology, FOS, either as 3 1-hour SCH classes or 1 3-hour SCH class.
And Tim, that just for the science FOS?
And
Yeah,
intro,
we
yeah,
both.
because I had them both in
Okay.
there.
Brian, could you add the teaching of?
Under the education one?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I can be
If I can just friendly amend what you said, only because if we're going to pencil whip it like this, I think we just find a way to include a total of 3, 1, 2, or 3 credit hour, because we do have some activities that would count there 2 hours.
Yeah.
Just for clarity's sake, since we're getting into that level of detail.
1, 2, or 3 for the total of 3.
The total of 3.
Okay, total of 3, okay.
Yes.
Total of.
Angela.
If you want to exclude those credits from varsity athletics, we better put it in there.
Please do.
Please do.
I'll accept it as a friendly.
Does not include.
Yes, good amendment. I like it.
Good call, girl.
Way to go.
Good job, Angela.
I love athletics.
Fairness.
I don't think
See, we don't need to get back in there. We don't have.
Any other discussion before we call a vote?
Do you want me to read that one more time?
Yeah, read it one more time.
Okay.
Okay. All right, here we go. Listen up, folks.
Okay, so to include physical activity courses in the science-based, which would include must be fitness-based activities like resistance training, conditioning, etc., and education-based, which can be fitness-based, purely activity-based, i.e. lifetime sports, bowling, etc., or teaching of physical activity. Kinesiology, FOS, sub-areas. Total of 3 SCH units, any combination of 1, 2, or 3 SCH. These will exclude varsity athletics as an option.
Credit for varsity athletics.
Participation.
This will exclude. Okay.
Sound like a dissertation title.
Varsity, okay. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good. All right.
So how many hours are we doing now?
Are we ready to call the vote?
I think so.
Yes, please.
All right, all those in favor of the motion Brian just stated, raise your hand high. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimously passed. Great job.
Before we leave, I'd like to get a breakdown from you of the exact courses and course numbers of the courses that you want to be included in. It's pretty broad.
The problem with the activity classes is we all have different numbers.
Could we run that down later so we can keep going? Because I don't want to miss out on any other discussion. That could be something we can do after the meeting.
I can do it, yeah.
Okay.
The problem with the activity classes is in a community college, you gave us a block of numbers and not specific numbers, so all of us are going to have, you know, my fitness and conditioning is going to be a totally different number. Now, everything else is uniform, but in the ACGM, we have not designated numbers for activities.
That's fine.
You give us 50 numbers.
They're all 1100.
Yeah.
There's 11
Give us a block.
Yeah.
We can write 1100, whatever.
Yeah. Or at least designate which ones, like fitness and conditioning.
Is there any other motions or
Should we
questions?
make some motions about courses that we recommend be included in this ACGM that aren't right now?
Yes.
Yes.
It's a good suggestion.
Yes.
One that I would recommend is a functional anatomy class.
What?
Okay.
A
Let's
2,000 level functional anatomy class. I move that ACGM consider expanding.
For what? Where is that going?
It would
in
be an
the FOS?
additional anatomy class because typically the biology one is so bad. So before they get to biomechanics, or actually what happens, well, I
But if
shouldn't
we're
say
not
that
putting it
because-
in the FOS, why would we?
Because it
Can't
is
say
relevant
FOS.
and it
Well,
may
but
be
why would
relevant
we
to
add it?
certain,
Why
it's
would we
not
add
a
it?
part of
in
the
addition
FOS, it's
That
part
they don't have
of,
to that doesn't transfer and they don't have to take.
No.
But it does transfer if it's in the ACGM, and they do have the option of taking it.
if we do have, right now we require our pre-rehab science to take PT 3400. And our PT program's moving to Round Rock. And we with anthropology will be eventually taking over that cadaver lab.
We need to finish this list first.
And,
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
we would maybe in the future consider maybe lowering it to a 2,000 level if there was quality community college instruction on basic musculoskeletal anatomy.
Would you mind holding that motion until we finish the list? Can we finish the list first?
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to make more?
I'm not suggesting more. I'm just saying there are people who are asking about more. So let's
Just the way
Can we
let's
get a
get.
I thought
total
maybe that was the
of
end.
what we have right now?
So right now we should have based on.
Okay, so the floor is open to any motions about any other additional courses in either one of these.
So this is
Otherwise,
what we had
this is
already
it.
approved.
Can
I need
we
to add
ask
on
Brian to
here
read the
3 hours
list?
of activity classes.
Yes, Brian, would you read the current list for science and then the current list for education?
Okay, so actually I already started the little table while we were taking breaks. So
Thank
we
you.
have what is that? It's called. It's not called Intro to Kinesiology. It's called Foundations of Kinesiology. It's PhD 1301, I believe, if I looked at the book
If we
correct.
can use KINE prefix.
We can use one or the other.
It doesn't matter.
I'm just saying what that whole document.
Let's just talk about the courses. We can handle the numbers.
So that's one. The second was Intro to Psychology, which I don't know what the number is. That
2, 3 don't matter.
AMP 1 plus lab, AMP 2 plus lab, which are each 4 hours. Concepts of Fitness, which is PhD 1338. And then First Aid or Care and Prevention of Athletic Injuries. First Aid is PhD 1306. And Prevention and Care and Prevention of Athletic Injuries is 2356. And then the fitness courses that we just approved, which would be the
3 more hours.
Which would be 3 more hours.
So that total number of hours.
We were up. Well, so
in
the
Kinesiology
FOS.
only. In Kinesiology only.
Yeah, in Kinesiology only. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4. So it'd be 12 hours we're at.
And then 8 more in.
11 more.
11 more.
11 more that are not in Kines.
That's right.
Because in Kines we'd have Foundations of Kinesiology, which is 3 hours. Concepts of Fitness, which is 3 hours. First Aid and or Care Prevention Athletic Injuries, that's 3 hours. That's 9 hours plus the fitness classes, the exercise classes we just added, physical activity classes, that's 12.
The two are the same, with the exception of the activities. That's it.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll work on that anyway. Okay.
That streamlined the ed conversation.
Round up with just one.
12 and 12. So I would say it'd be elementary or coaching. Elementary or coaching.
Either way.
Rebecca.
6, 10, 14.
I make a motion that we include elementary PE into the education side of that.
All right, we have a motion on the elementary PE for the education side and seconded by Henry.
Pardon me, what is that?
A motion for elementary PE for the education track, and it's seconded. Henry did. So Rebecca and then Henry.
Can you explain to me
who did the second? Who did the second?
No.
Henry, what that course is? What you think the course is? I'm unclear.
Okay, which course are you thinking?
The one you just promoted.
Oh, the elementary education class?
Yes.
Well, it's a class for individuals that are interested in teaching in the elementary level. They cover activities in fine motor skills. They cover gross motor skills.
Is it a methods course?
It's a common course.
It's a 3-hour
course.
It's a 3-hour course.
I don't really have a voice.
Yeah.
Could you read it for me?
Yeah, just a second.
I'm asking because
What numbers
Chris, our methods course for elementary is it's in the blocks. We teach that. It's an upper.
Yes, and a lot of your students.
Do you want me to
are in
read
that
the course
in that
number?
class.
You want me to read the course description for that?
A lot of your students that are in that class.
So
My
for
class, our class.
So the course description for that course is an overview of the program of activities in elementary school physical education, including the study and practice of activities and principles that promote physical fitness with an emphasis on historical development, philosophical implications, physical fitness, and kinesiology. It's called actually physical education for elementary education majors.
That's good. Students are successful. It's good.
Foundations in
We
Kinesiology.
accept that one at our university, even though if it's taught at A&M Commerce, it's a 300 level course.
Yeah.
3,000 level course.
Ours is
We will
3,000
accept-
level 2, but
we will
And
accept that.
y'all take that one?
We haven't accepted that.
Okay.
David?
We haven't used or enough, so I'd like to suggest that we consider the PE for elementary or the 3-hour coaching activity, coaching sport and activity, or whatever this.
Coaching class.
Coaching sport athletic.
You don't have to accept that friendly amendment, and he can make another motion later. It's up to you.
In fairness, there's probably not going to be 6 more hours added, so I'm not trying to pressure you one way or the other. This puts it at 15 hours.
Well, if they're going elementary, they would take that way. If they're going.
It's an order.
On the, just a brief discussion on the teaching side, the state of Texas does not hire coaches, they hire teachers. So we want them to be certified teachers.
Yep.
If they have the opportunity to coach right now, many of individuals that are coaching on the junior high school level, the coaches with whom they're working with, they go to all kinds of camps and sessions on their own to learn various techniques and doing coaching.
Yeah, surely. I mean,
I would
peak
rather-
physical is one of our smallest programs. They've shut down a lot of them, so I fully get it. And ultimately, whether it's through AltCert or through the TEA, they're sitting for cert to try to become. So I get that. I'm just suggesting that in compromise, allow more courses to be taught. We do have interested individuals that are interested in coaching, and some four-year institutions may not have an emphasis in that. Maybe their emphasis is in adapted or other elements, and so this would possibly provide opportunity to get experience in coaching, still go towards the teacher cert route, but it's an or, and so that's the spirit behind that.
At many of the four-year institutions now, we don't have very many coaches that are actually teaching. Anyone? No.
What's that?
Coaches
that are
actually four-year.
Oh, sorry.
We don't have very many coaches that are teaching.
But you mean that
Speak against
the
this.
university?
This is a service
Yeah, but
class
this is
only
for
for
high school
elementary
coaches. This is for
majors
elementary
that
or high
aren't
school,
kinesiology
K-12.
majors. So
Well, they're PE.
no, they're only elementary majors that are liberal arts majors. So I think it's great. It should be in your ACGM, but it's not a part of our. I know this is confusing because we keep talking about core and whatever this field of study, but it's a creeping it's a creeping core, and I especially want to speak against the coaching because coaching doesn't have a scientific basis. It's started journals and they last 2 years and die. It does have a little bit of research in Europe and other parts of the world, but for the most part, we've gotten away from it because of the abuses of athletics. And the farther we can stay away from athletics, the happier I am about it.
My one concern is with it, and again, if it happens, it happens. I'll have to find a place for it. I'm fairly certain that the people who coordinate my EC through 12 PE program are going to have a problem with that particular methods course, which is so critical to the Texas exam scores, coming in from somewhere else, regardless of where that somewhere else is. That's a course that I think my PE folks really think needs to be coming from them.
So we're, I guess, back to either voting on the initial or with as amended, and I guess either way I'm fine.
I'm unopposed to the amendment.
You are or not?
Are or not?
Unopposed.
I don't.
So you're accepting the friendly amendment?
Yes.
So it's that class or coaching?
She said she was not opposed.
I didn't hear.
So that class or coaching, that's what we're doing?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So the friendly amendment is going bye-bye.
No.
She said or is okay.
Which
Is there a second? Is there a second?
There was already a second.
Who seconded?
Henry seconded it.
He seconded her amendment.
I second her amendment.
He didn't second this.
Okay, all right.
So this one has not been, it's seconded. Discussion?
There was, so just procedure, there was a approved amendment. There was a friendly amendment to that. It does not get voted on. The person who made the original motion decides to accept it, so your second of the motion remains. Huh?
No, my second is gone. I'm not.
He just seconded the original
Then we
motion.
need another, basically another motion is what
She did.
Because we have,
She did.
there was already a seconded motion on the table. You can't just pull that unless we're going to vote on that and say no to that and then make another motion.
You're right.
Angela?
It's a
The seconder to the
procedure-wise.
original motion does not approve of the friendly amendment, the friendly amendment goes away.
So no, so,
It's the original motion.
so she accepted it, he didn't, so it's
Says
not.
Roberts.
Yeah. So it's the only class.
To the elementary.
So where are we at?
Back to elementary.
So we're back to add physical education for elementary PE majors to the education-based FOS kinesiology. That's what we have approved. We can vote on that, we can decide to, okay, it could be a negative vote, and then you can have another motion if you want to vote on the inclusion of this.
I would want to remind the committee to look at the enrollments for that course before you decide to do it.
What is that? Maybe this way, though.
That's why the wellness are so low. We don't
Hey,
even offer
Tim.
standard course because I think he may take it. Elementary,
1331.
1331.
Well, the enrollments are probably low because no one's accepting it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean.
It's not in the FOS. If it was in the FOS, then that numbers would jump up significantly. I'm not suggesting we add it, I'm just saying.
Isn't that, is that?
1331.
No, elementary.
Yeah, it's pretty low. Not many places offer
We're in the biologies right now.
I don't know where that is. What's the enrollment?
This not
It's the one that goes with TECA. It's a health, school health or something.
There you go. Well,
We don't teach it. Because they can teach it, but we could if we wanted to.
What is that?
what is that?
Because our majors would never take it.
It's incorrect.
Well, we're about to steal it from
1331 is physical education for elementary.
Liberal arts.
We're just gonna take them out. All those education, we can take them out.
That's the other part of my department. I'm not sure.
Any other discussion on the elementary teaching course?
I was just playing. Tell them how to play.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Just joking.
Just joking.
Sorry. Rebecca, I just would like to point out that the screen up there has the course listed, PhD, KINE 1331 as a registered nursing course, so I don't really want to believe anything I see up there because it's self-reported numbers. And we know that if it's not in the FOS.
There was another sheet that had
Sports officiating, there was another nursing too.
Yeah, sports officiating. Yeah, look at the
Wow.
column
I
A.
don't think, that may be an issue with.
But it's on this other sheet right here. It's correct on
Because
here.
that is a PhD course.
Because the enrollment will go up.
It's right here, though.
Well,
Yeah,
something's
that's what I
screwed.
said.
Maybe when I sorted the columns.
You're right.
It didn't get sorted.
Yeah,
It's
it-
there's another sheet where it is listed correctly. The one with all the
I think it's
Okay.
just a glitch.
Okay.
the one with all the columns.
I think
All
that's an issue with translation.
So we have a motion and a second. Discussion. Are we done?
We would have to vote this down and then have another motion.
So we have to motion to deny that?
We would have to
No.
vote this down and then have another, if you think the or is important, you would have to vote this down and then have
Withdraw your
another.
motion and make another one.
Okay, here we go. We have a motion on the floor for PhD 1331 to be added to the education, period.
I want to just make another comment, and Shelley's the one that brought this up. There is a, what we call TECA course, and it's wellness for young children, and it is supposed to meet the standards for teacher certification for the elementary education, and it is used in the or it previously was used in the AAT, which was the transfer field of study for teachers ed, but it no longer is part of that, but many universities do transfer the TECA course for that physical education course for LA.
Do you have the course description there?
Yes. It's
Teaching certification.
TECA 1318, Wellness of Young Children.
Taught outside.
That's not the same
A
thing.
study of the factors that impact the well-being of young children, including healthy behavior, food, nutrition, fitness, and safety practices. Focuses on local and national standards and legal implications of relevant policies and regulations. Course content must align with applicable State Board of Educators certification, pedagogy, and professional responsibilities, standards, and coincide with the National Association for the Education of Young Children position statement related to developmentally appropriate practices for children from birth to age 8. requires students to participate in field experiences with children from infancy through age 12 in a variety of settings with varied and diverse populations. Course includes minimum of 16 hours of field
Very
experience.
specific too.
It's a very
Really
different
vague.
course from 1331.
It's not.
Very different, yeah.
Tim?
Yeah, and one point that hasn't been raised on this whole topic is that many of us that have pedagogy programs, physical education pedagogy programs, we are scrambling to keep them floating as it is. And this is a core class that if we now say that a 200 or 2,000 level class is going to substitute for the 300 level class that we have it as, we're going to lose quite a teaching load actually from some of our faculty. And so that's one of the reasons that I'll vote against this proposal, is because, again, we were talking about the two-year colleges maintaining their kinesiology programs. In this case, I'm voting for this because we're trying to maintain our PE pedagogy program.
I agree with Tim, and I have no intention, if this passes, to allow this course from wherever it comes transfer in for our advanced course. I'll have to count it towards the degree, but I'm finding someplace else for it. I have PhDs in PE who were brought here to teach advanced methods, and they are the ones who answer to me when the Texas scores come in, so they are going to want these courses taught by them.
Okay, any more discussion?
Why not go therefore for a nutritional class and health performance?
We have a motion,
stay on,
yeah, stay on
no,
track.
stay on track.
So,
Hold that thought.
Hold
that thought.
Calling the vote.
Just have
Yes, hold that thought.
something transferable.
Yes, hold that thought.
Everybody.
All in favor of passing the motion to allow 1331 in the education?
1330.
1330.
That's what I said, 1331.
PE for
I think it's up to a 26-hour film study.
No.
Raise your hand if you vote for.
No, but not
No,
all
that's
in
right.
kinesiology.
So,
It's only 11. It's
Oh, yeah,
only
yeah.
15 hours.
Sorry,
It's only 12 hours as of right now in
4
kinesiology.
hours, 3,
He's almost past 12 hours.
3.
You have 12 hours.
I know.
Approved right there.
But those others
Yeah,
are
but
already
six-
in the core.
Or
Some
12
of those are-
11 are not in
Psychology and
kinesiology.
physiology is already in the
There's,
core.
there's currently 12
So we are not talking about.
Yeah, APs are.
There's 12 KIE.
Because 11 of those hours are in the core, so we're not going past the 60 hours.
There's 12
No.
KIE.
Because you only have 12 hours
Alan,
of
we have a
kinesiology.
motion on the floor. All in favor of 1331 being added to education core, raise your hand.
And we're not doing the oral in this vote,
No,
correct?
correct. This is just that course.
Just this course.
Not the or.
4, 5, 6, 7,
8.
8.
Those against? Nine against, those abstaining. 4 abstentions. The
motion
abstentions go with the 4.
Well, the motion doesn't pass.
It just dies.
It just,
Abstentions don't do anything.
no.
I'm like,
50% of the voting
And
of votes
it depends on what
cast, so if you
section of
abstain,
Robert's
that's,
rules.
So now the question is, will it get past 12 and
We
12
don't have a majority.
or no?
so it's just effectively, yeah, it fails, because there's not 50%
So
of the votes cast
we're moving
in
on.
favor.
Moving on.
Any other proposals? Yes, sir.
Yes, I was going to propose that because nutrition appears to have votes in both the education track and the science track, we give it some consideration for transfer.
How about
So your motion is to accept nutrition in both the science and the education FOS?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Can I make an amendment to that, or do I have
Wait,
to
no,
wait till a second?
let's get a second if
Second.
somebody wants to do that.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second to that.
Discussion.
Well,
Can I make?
Maybe
Well, that's
discuss.
part of discussion.
Oh, okay, I didn't know. I didn't want to be out of place. Can we consider as a group making an insertion into the ACGM of a KINE nutrition for human performance, well, specifically for our specificity?
I mean, we would have to do that.
Fairness, I thought that's what it is.
Yeah.
It says HHP on it.
We would have to do
Or
that
PhD.
first
No, no,
before we
that's it.
could
I think
vote.
that's the only
So
thing we're
Alan,
considering.
Alan, apparently it's a biology, but it's not nutrition for human performance.
Health and human performance.
So if we're suggesting, if we're voting on this, the nutrition we're talking about is a kinesiology or / health that is nutrition for human performance, which is way different than what's in biology.
Yes.
If we vote on that and that gets to be part of the FOS, then would that have to go back into the list?
Well, there's this,
I don't want to vote on something that's going to.
diet, nutrition, and diet therapy, which is taught, it's big enrollment, and it's taught at many institutions. So
It's not diet therapy,
I
though.
think you should at least look at the description of that course first before you.
Well, here's
mess
the
with it, 'cause it's a
problem,
course that's already-
and Carolyn will vouch for this. Within the last year, Del Mar knew that the pre-PT degrees, both at Corpus and Kingsville, required a nutrition course. Her chair contacted Don and me, because y'all needed support from us, because y'all feed us, to create a nutrition course that assists. And I even told her, because I have a health course, which we don't teach because I have a nutrition department at Kingsville, so they take it there. But I have it just in case I need it. We worked with her on that. This is this. She made the proposal, and the board shut her down and said that Del Mar could not create a course in nutrition. So, again, do we have any
This
two-year
is-
schools who currently have a course in that?
No, it's not in ACGM. They
And
won't
so
allow
there's
us.
precedents to be set for the board declining the request to offer that course through Kines or Health, whichever one. And then lastly, don't the PT schools require a nutrition course and
Biology.
specify a number, or in a nutrition department?
Yeah.
PT doesn't require that.
PT doesn't require
but that was
They
the
don't?
name-
Okay, I would
No.
know.
Yeah, but my question was, will the community colleges be able to have an RN teach it? Because my
A who?
nutrition, a registered, excuse me, an RD. registered
Yes,
dietitian.
they have to, because it's a biology course, so they have to have 18 hours in biology.
We're proposing a KINE nutrition
I know, but I was
Would it
answering
be
his
taught by
question.
an RD?
No.
Oh, it has to be taught by
well, I
an RD.
mean,
Has to be taught by
an
It has to be taught
RD
by an RD.
Can't
That's,
specify that though, right?
According to credentialing, with the PhD, KINE, all you have to have is a master's degree in health kinesiology to teach PhD or KINE classes.
But we have a recent precedence
That it's
with
not
the
gonna get
board
approved.
declining a Kines department at a two-year school when they requested to create the exact course
Just
we're
to be clear,
talking
this is the
about.
coordinating board. Right? So
Yes.
that-
Yes, it's these people, right?
Right in this
these
building.
people,
Yeah.
yes. Let's go find them.
Sports, I mean, sports nutrition is a 3,000 level taught in a nutrition department by an RD that has a prerequisite of an intro nutrition class taught by an RD in a nutrition
At
department.
your school.
Yeah, and
Yeah, but it's not at our
anybody,
school.
and anybody that has a nutrition department is never going to get away with substituting that.
Sound like a no vote for you.
Yep, does.
Save it.
Well, my whole point was, I hate for us to approve it, to put it on
No,
the
that's a great
FOS,
point.
when we have very
Well, that's
recently
why I
seen,
asked Alan if that was the,
yeah,
if it were to get voted in, if it wasn't going to be that, then that would not be what we
Exactly.
wanted.
Okay.
It
So do you have the
appears-
cart before the horse?
but I would,
Second.
well, okay, go ahead.
Did you second already? So this was
Yeah, I
discussion?
did, because I
Yeah, and then this was
wanted to get to
discussion
this
around it. Yep.
discussion
Sure.
phase.
It appears to be extremely hard to change the ACGM. I'm not sure what's in that process, but they call a committee together of experts in that area, and they debate it. And we were teaching that course as a special needs course, and it was transferring to both institutions, and then you have to reapply to teach those special needs courses, and then it was turned down. And that process took over a year and a half to appeal to finally get an answer. It was incredibly cumbersome.
I'll let Rebecca Leslie, who manages the ACGM Advisory Committee, talk about that process.
I'm familiar with Unique Need too. The course
Could you
in
speak a
question
little louder?
was too similar to the biology course already in existence. There was a line-by-line learning outcome analysis, and it was, and institutions can add additional learning outcomes to make it address the needs if there is a need for an additional learning outcome, because the basics were fairly much the same, and you wanted one to specifically address kinesiology in some way and nutrition for fitness. That was the reason that was turned down. It was too similar to an existing course in the ACGM. So there is a nutrition course in the ACGM that could be used. Locally, they could add additional, and this committee could recommend that the existing biology nutrition course have an additional new learning outcome that addresses your needs.
The title of this one is
It's not going.
just awful. Nutrition and diet therapy.
Right.
Well, I mean, that's a title. And institutions can also adjust titles if it doesn't disguise content too much or move too far away from the content. So there are alternatives. However, with that being said, if this committee feels like there needs to be a specific nutrition course for kinesiology, you can make that recommendation, that be looked into, and if you want to put it in your list as KINEXXXX and say it's a 3-hour lecture course on nutrition, then there is a process in place to develop a course. And we can do that. But you would give the directive or give that indication of what you're wanting. This process takes a while when we do add courses, or we revise courses in the ACGM. We call it the Learning Outcomes Project. We do get experts in the discipline to come in, and we do a lot of work ahead of time. We don't do it slowly. It's very process-driven, where we look at institutions who are actually offering the course and have it in their curriculum when we compare syllabi. Then we get together and the faculty, it's faculty-driven, just like this is, and they create the course description and the learning outcomes to go along with it. So there is a process in place if this committee recommends that. So you would need to be fairly specific about what kind of course you would want. Give us a title or a descriptive title. We're not married to it, but go with that to get something done, and you can move on from it. And if you wanted it to address specific needs of your disciplines, to give us that kind of information as well. So there are two possibilities. You can recommend additional learning outcomes to the existing ACGM course. You can use it and suggest that. Or you can suggest a new, or just use the one that's already in existence without alteration. Or I guess there's three. Or you can recommend a new course. So you've got three options.
Question. I don't think they were going to want the one, whether they change those things or not. Let's just say that this were to pass with the KINEXXXX. If that would not get approved after someone went through all that proposal, then we would say that should come out of the FOS, because we're not in agreement that we don't
Or
have biology.
just leave nutrition up there, and if they take one out of biology or wherever else, that would count.
To do that. But
I don't think your proposal was to get another. one more course from the Kinesiology departments. But if we could, that would be great. I think your proposal was because you believe the nutrition content,
Yeah, it's
regardless
an
of where they
component.
get it from. But if we just have nutrition on there, all right, I think we all would support the proposal of the two-year schools to add a nutrition for health and performance course, which would meet this.
So there's a proposal to add a class or not add the class?
No, we would
Totally.
support that
Maybe.
if they did. All he's saying is the nutrition content, regardless of where it comes from, within Kinesiology or within nutrition or within biology, needs to be held within. Right?
Yep.
Doesn't matter which department it comes out of, for the purposes of his proposal.
Okay.
So that is in addition to FOS.
He wants to put it in the FOS.
And on both sides, education and
I think
science.
he proposed both sides.
Yes.
So we have a motion and a second.
Yes.
Call the vote.
Please.
All in favor of adding KINE 2375 maybe, nutrition for health and performance, raise your hand high
For both tracks.
for both tracks. Ten. Those opposed? 12. Any abstentions? 1. Motion fails.
I'd like to move.
Yes.
The exact same thing, but in the science track only.
Nutrition?
Yep.
Second.
For health and performance.
Nutrition.
Any discussion?
Angela?
Well, having thought to the bitter end on a nutrition class on our department, I think we have to be very, very careful about who's teaching that class. And I think that's what Kyle was talking about. Unless an RN, we managed to win with a cross-listed nutrition class, but our nutrition class is taught with a PhD in nutrition sciences and a certified sport nutritionist, and that's who teaches our class. In order to get that, and I'm not saying anything against our two-year institutions, but that's not helping them unless they have an RD on their staff, because they've got to outsource it to somebody. And I thought the point that we were talking about was trying to do things that would kind of help on both ends. But I think this is a battle we're going to lose big time.
My proposal had nothing to do with what department the course was taught out of. It's that a nutrition course be included in the FOS for science.
So that would mean that if it's taught by a department in Kinesiology and it's a typical Kinesiology person who doesn't have a whole lot of nutrition background, it would be acceptable.
Yep.
Any other discussion?
All in favor of voting for the science track to add a nutrition course for health and performance, signify by raising your hand. Four. Those against? (16) And any abstentions? 1.
There's one absent.
Motion fails.
Yeah, one left, so it's an abstention.
Yeah.
Is there any other motions for additions in either of the FOS? If not, we would move to talking about descriptions. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a motion to add coaching to the education.
Okay. Motion. We have a motion to add the coaching to the education. Do we have a second?
Is that the coaching of?
No, the coaching, athletics and sports, the 3-hour coaching, 1321.
1321.
Officiating stroke coaching.
You got officiating up to this, huh?
Officiating stroke
Not
coaching.
officiating.
Coaching.
Yeah.
1321.
So a motion to add the 3-hour coaching course to the education FOS. We have a motion. Do not have a second yet.
Second.
We have a second.
Discussion.
Discussion.
We don't train coaches in our department. We're training PE teachers. We don't have a single course in coaching on our degree plans. And we're already over 120 hours. That's the one degree plan we can actually get away with that with.
Yes, sir.
But to me, I think it's an important part of preparing the teacher. That as much as we are preparing physical education teachers, if they can also engage in coaching, you are broadening the marketability of that particular graduate. So to me, it's an important component that we should add it.
David?
Talked about this too. The same logic could be used to say by requiring it, you're limiting the ability of a student to get competency, for example, in the STEM or any other discipline, where it would fall anyways into electives, where it would have to in your case. And so, just to the logic behind your rationale, by including it in the field of study, we further limit, we put limitations on the marketability. So,
I don't understand.
And
that
I would
actually
advocate.
Yeah, and I would.
From a hireability standpoint, having coaching, I would think it's going to be one extra STEM class. I'm good with STEM, believe me, but.
Yeah, I would just tend to disagree based on the nature of these programs, the PE programs in general at four-year institutions, at most of the federal and state legislation over the past 20 years as well, but that's.
Oh, well, I mean, you're correct, but if we're talking about what's best for the student in terms of marketability.
Yeah. I would say higher ability.
No,
is the
absolutely.
endpoint.
That extra STEM work, every extra 3 hours you're going to start to tackle onto PE is coming off of their support field, where you and I both know what they're getting. They're getting STEM, math, science. That's what gets them a job. They don't care if they can coach or not. If they can teach that stuff, they're
And I like the idea of coaching too. I'm just saying by
I do
requiring
too. It's just there's no room for it.
I thought coupled with the possibility of the elementary, but that ship is.
But a lot of students are also coming in and they are equipped in terms of AP1 and a few other biology courses that they take. They are already equipped. They have the foundation knowledge in science to teach science courses at high school or at middle school. So what we did, because they get certified all levels.
They can still do it. I'm just saying by requiring it in the FOS, now by definition, we displaced anything. That's all. That's what this is.
I come from a huge coaching background, and then my father ended up being a professor. I coached in public schools for 12 years, and I love it. And I can tell you that I taught at A&M in College Station and Kingsville and New Mexico State and here, and I can tell you 99.9% of the kids that are in our education field want to be coaches. That being said, they are 100% hireable when they graduate if they really want to go somewhere to teach. And those coaches at those places are going to teach them what they need to know. And I love coaching. I think if you're a great teacher, you'd be a great coach because you got to be able to teach your sport. So being able to be a great teacher is the best thing we can do for them. And so I personally took coaching classes and I got a lot out of them. It'd be nice for them to know more when they first get there, but they're going to get it. If they're willing to roll up their sleeves and work hard, get those things. So I would vote no on that just for what he's saying. if David says if that goes in, something else is coming out of the curriculum, and we got a really good high pass rate right now, and I do not want to mess with that. And that's just me personally. Yes, sir.
I guess, let me add a little bit to the discussion. I philosophically agree 100%. I had those courses when I went through and PE majors and so forth, so I think they're important. I think coaching is so important. We've actually started coaching academy at the university to help people that want to coach get information that they need, because it's often not in our curriculum. In the coaching academy, though, we have nobody in that academy right now that's working on a PE degree. They're from every place else. They're from math, they're from science, they're from geography, they're from all over the university. Our PE majors don't want to go that direction. And why that is, I don't know. I'm just saying that the demand for us on our campus is not through the PE folks, it's for other folks, people who have the STEM education that are going to get out in schools, and they know they want to coach as well. And so they're taking kind of a different way and path into the degree. So I don't want to add to our FOS because I just don't want to blow it up anymore, but that's part of the reason why I'm going to vote the way I vote.
Call the question.
Any other?
Question?
Call the question. All in favor of adding the coaching class 1321 to education track, signify by raising your hand. High. Six. Those opposed? $14. Those abstaining. 2. Motion fails.
So, I'm sorry, can I make a motion?
Sure.
Yes.
I'd like to move that we stop adding courses to either one of the FOS.
Second. I second it.
Can we have a list of the courses again? Breakdown.
Yeah. So we have on the science-based, we have.
They're the same. They're exactly the same.
They're the same except.
Yeah, they're the same except for what that
The
PE
fitness
course is
classes.
with. Yeah.
So, but list those.
So you want me to read them off?
Yes.
Okay. So we have Foundations of Kinesiology, the PhD 1301, 3-hour course. PhD 1338, which is Concepts of Fitness. We have the first OR, which is PhD 1306 or 2356, which is First Aid or Care and Prevention of Athletic Injuries. And then we have and then we also have Intro to Psychology, A&P 1 plus Lab, A&P 2 plus Lab, and then the final is in the science-based, we have fitness-based courses such as resistance training, weight training, conditioning, etc., which could include and will be determined at a later date, PhD 11XX, PhD 21XX, or PhD 1664? Is it 1164? And then the only thing that changes in the education-based sub-area is that last piece is defined as the same kind of course numbers, except it can be fitness-based courses, i.e. resistance training, weight training, conditioning, etc., activity-based courses, i.e. lifetime sports, bowling, etc., or teaching of physical activity.
And not including.
And not including
Credit for varsity
not
athletics.
including.
So that's a total of 12 hours in
in
FOS
kinesiology.
in kinesiology alone.
Yes.
That's a huge one.
Athletics.
Oh, we're gonna get 3.
Question?
So what?
We have a motion on
I'd like to call the question.
Motion.
Oh,
Did
sorry.
we have a second?
Hold on.
Second, Ms. Kyle?
So.
Is there
So
any,
Heron,
did we have
I
any
second
discussion
it.
about that?
wait, who made it?
Tim and then me.
And Dwayne. Is there no discussion? Angela's calling a vote, so go on.
All in favor of accepting the FOS as stated by Brian?
Wait, the motion was to stop adding courses. Still, because I want to speak to this OR thing in a minute, but we got the motion on.
Okay. Rewind. The motion is to stop adding courses to either track of the FOS. By raising your hand, you signify yes. Those opposed? 5. Those abstaining. Motion passes.
Okay, Alan, you got the floor.
Well, thank you. Just on this question of the first aid course and the care, prevention, and injury course, I just want to point out a few things. The first aid course, as you see up here, has got this 4 institutions, 4 universities offer 22 colleges. That's the enrollment. That's the first aid course. Now the care and prevention course has got considerably less than that. Well, not considerably, 3 as opposed to 4 colleges, less than half the enrollment at universities. About, twice as many colleges offer it. And enrollment in colleges for first aid is much greater than care and prevention. So I just want you to consider, I mean, you can do what you like. If this is your decision, that's fine. I'm not arguing against it, but I just want you to consider perhaps using the first aid course and adjusting the content of the description of it, the learning outcomes in the ACGM to incorporate what it is that you see in care and prevention that you don't see in the first aid course. And that could kill 2 birds with 1 stone and maybe make it easier for institutions.
Angela?
Credentials, these 2 are unusual courses because the credentials of the teachers in these 2 courses are quite different. As I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you lead to a certification in first aid, you must be an instructor trainer in order to do that.
Yes.
So there's a credential of the person teaching the class. For the care and prevention of athletic training, there is not exactly the same thing, but the typical person to teach it is an athletic training certified person, licensed athletic trainer.
Correct.
Does not have to be, but yes.
The best practices in the field is taught by an ATC. And when you start changing those things, that makes a huge difference.
Agreed.
Shelley?
Those are 2 different separate classes, and we service different students with those. Trying to combine those 2 would not meet the needs of Kines, or would it meet the needs of the other disciplines that we do service?
Was there a hand over here?
They can't be.
Any other discussion?
The or is what we need.
Yeah.
We voted on.
Leave it the way it is?
Yes.
Straw poll, or motion, yeah?
I move that we leave it the way it is.
I second that.
All right, all in favor of leaving it as it is with the or, raise your hand. Those against? One against, any abstentions? 1 abstention. Motion passes.
Okay, Dwayne, did you made the suggestion of looking at making some other changes?
Well, I thought while we were all here,
Or
this group might agree
leave it
on
as it is.
encouraging the coordinating board to add to the ACGM 2000 level functional anatomy class taught in the discipline of kinesiology.
I would support that, especially if it was combined with a strength training component to it. We actually have that class at the 1000 level.
And we have a 2000 level class like that.
Especially if it is taught within the department, the kinesiology department, not.
Yeah, in Kines.
Yeah.
It would be a 2000 level sophomore class, yes?
That's fine.
After the anatomy.
Right. I just wanted to be clear
Yeah.
what you were wanting in application class. Okay.
1000, lower level.
God, I just, it's like, okay, where are we going, you know?
And to be clear, this is outside of the field of study. It's
Right.
just,
Yep.
you know,
Field
Yes.
studies to offer through the ACGM, yes.
No, we-
Add class.
Yes.
No, I'm not opposed to church.
So,
Yeah, it was, in a second.
is that your proposal, Dwayne?
That was the
Was
motion.
it was a motion and a second.
Okay.
Any more discussion? The motion is to add a functional anatomy combined strength training component. I think there's a course or develop a course.
Should you perhaps call it something like anatomical kinesiology, just to make sure you're not like
Functional kinesiology. You put
Something-
anatomical, biologists don't want to be all over.
Yeah.
Apply, application.
Applied
that's what it
I
is.
consider that friendly, applied, functional,
Something.
Applied functional.
kinesiology.
Don't just put that.
I just called it functional kinesiology. That's applied.
Functional kinesiology.
I think functional is a good word.
Yeah.
Functional anatomy
Functional kinesiology.
can,
Rebecca, do you want to speak to that? About adding this course to the ACGM?
Am I understanding you're making the recommendation, this committee is making the recommendation to add a course to the ACGM? Not necessarily that you're adding it to the field of study.
we
Right.
are correct.
Oh. Yes, we take recommendations for new courses, there's a process.
And you shoot them down.
Yeah.
So it doesn't need to come from us, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's right.
So you just ask her to do it.
We need to mind our.
Well, I think
Let me
the
just
weight of the
recommend
committee, Angela,
Just an FYI, we have added anatomical kinesiology to our undergraduate kinesiology major, if you need an example of one. And it's been very well received by our students to bridge that gap between A and P and what else we teach in the kinesiology.
Ours too.
area.
That's so applaud you. That's so.
Yeah.
Would it have A and P, the biology A and P as the prerequisite?
In our department,
But I wouldn't be opposed.
it's A and P as a prerequisite, as well as our first level of exercise physiology.
But A and P is not the prerequisite for your function, or is
A
it?
and P is a prerequisite for our first exercise physiology course. So therefore, they have to have
Okay.
both. Because we felt like.
But that's up
there was a
to an individual program to make
Yeah,
that decision.
yeah.
So call the,
he's sliding down.
no, I'm not that problem.
Yeah.
I have great posture.
The motion is for the committee to recommend that the ACGM accept a new course of functional anatomy to the ACGM.
What do y'all call it there?
We call it anatomical kinesiology. It's a 3-hour junior level class.
We call it functional anatomy, 3-hour junior level.
We
same
call it
prereqs.
functional kinesiology.
Ours is functional anatomy and strength and conditioning.
Can we call it functional kinesiology just to keep the anatomy?
We might not get.
Yeah,
to
that's probably a
choose
good
that.
idea.
They may choose
Functional kinesiology.
that. Recommend the class be looked at.
They see anatomy, they're gonna.
Yeah. Functional
I'm telling you.
kinesiology.
That's gonna happen.
Friendly.
All in favor, say aye by raising hand.
See, oh, it's right here already. Why you want?
And those opposed?
We're not. We're saying it's a more.
Any abstentions? One abstention. Motion carries.
If the coordinating board decides to pursue that with a ACGM subcommittee, what we call them what do they call it? Whatchamacallit? Learning Objectives Committee. Please consider volunteering to serve on that committee since you've expressed interest in it and you have expertise. Please email me separately and I'll keep a list if you would like to be interested in serving on that committee in the future and I'll be in contact with you.
Good job.
Yeah. Would the committee entertain a suggestion that all courses in the ACGM be referred to as KINE prefix rather than PHED?
So moved.
I'll second.
What?
This is an issue with the Texas Common Course Numbering System, and these are either or. This is a database issue. Institutions already have the option to do what they want. So, I mean, it's a database issue. It's how we track courses.
I don't know that there's any benefit to doing it. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I would, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I would suggest this, that is up to your individual departments. As junior colleges in the room, I thought it was just good practice that no one else used the PhD rubric but JUCOs. So I was trying to follow the leader. So I changed mine, but it was up to me to go through that process. I think it's just good practice for us. I left the activity classes, PhD, was just a personal preference. I thought, okay, you're going to leave weight training and strength conditioning in that physical activity rubric, and I put all the theory and finesse under KINE because I was trying to follow. So that was just but you have to do that through each institution has to decide that for themselves.
So noted. I retract.
Okay. It's okay. Anything else for the good of the group?
Motion to adjourn?
No.
I just asked a question. Do a second. You almost made it. I tried.
Accurate record keeping. I would like Brian to help me with this. I want to get the exact course numbers of all the courses in this FOS, especially those activities courses. So if we need to.
Well, they're the ones that are 11XX and 21XX.
There's no way to list that.
For this?
It's a
No.
range, 1100.
11XX and
Then I would
21XX.
like for you to be as specific as possible about what the topics of those courses are. Is there anything, for example, that you're not including? Are we not including basketball? Are we not including racquetball? I don't know. I just want to be.
Pilates and yoga
We
go.
have to be
They
very,
would
very
go.
clear.
They would not count in science based.
So we've got,
Alan,
wait. What is A&P1 in lab? What does that mean?
AMP, it's just biology 2401, 2402. They just said the lab because that's a 4,000, a 4-hour.
Class.
Is there an option in
Psychology
A&P
class.
and A&P
Yeah.
lab
Oh,
to have it
okay.
as a
You know what the
single
number of the
4-hour course
psychology
or
class? Intro to
Doesn't matter.
Some like in ours.
Is that a biology class also?
They have it on the yoga. The yoga doesn't count.
Play with.
Yoga counts for education.
We have 50. You have 1100 to
I don't think
1150.
Alan,
you can add whatever class, like golf,
Alan,
whatever
can
activity.
me and Carolyn answer these questions for you? Do we
1200
need everybody?
1250. You can also add as, like, if I have weight training 1 and 2, one's 1148 for me, and then I have 1249. So I do it in sections, like
The
freshman.
numbers are different at every school.
Yeah, but for
Yeah.
us,
2301. They're all
it would
the
be
same.
different for each one, so you have to
For
say.
community colleges,
Specific,
colleges,
like
that's
1100, and then say
that's
strength
different.
conditioning.
It's just crazy for
Or
us.
fitness-based assessment class. That would be another way to say it, you know, because that's what they want for the exercise science. They want that to be an assessment fitness course, not theory of rhythm or games. They want that on the other side, like they want golf and bowling on the education
All
side.
biology.
Oh, psychologists and psychology.
Okay, in the core
Okay.
it's psychology.
Which one? Help me out.
Psychology,
Guide me.
20,
Well, hang on.
it's gonna be, 23.
Sorry, I'm trying to-
I can't say what's gonna be in the core.
Help me out.
Track of
Trying to remember all the
coaching,
numbers.
23.
What are we talking about?
Okay, stop. Time out.
What do we? What do
We
you
don't
think?
need this entire body to answer all these questions.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Do we?
Okay.
No.
Is there any other thing that we need this entire body for, Alan?
Just remember to
'Cause I'll be-
submit your expense reports. Have a very safe trip back to office. Please accept our gratitude from everyone here at the coordinating board that you went to this time of trouble, take time away from the classroom and your students to come here and help with this, as you can see, very important and complicated.
Actually, I'm gonna have to leave school.
I thank the committee. It
Yes.
was a great bringing together of the community colleges and universities. I think it's far not held too often, so I wish we could get together often, but we thank you for your work.
And thank you,
Thank
coordinating
Carolyn and
board.
Brian for their leadership.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you guys for coming. Okay, we'll stay here and take care of all the little ends. You guys have a safe trip back home.
You have my email.
Chris, I'll just call you. But I